All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Inside In Tennis Podcast. Mitch Michals here, all part of the Believe Network. Tons of great content, tons of great tennis talk to get to on this show, which is available on all your podcast platforms. We're into the grass court season, here and gone in the blink of an eye, but so much to talk about already as we are gearing up for Wimbledon, less than 2 short weeks away. Joining me now, friend of the show, who's been on this podcast a bunch. We always love having him to talk tennis, and someone that appreciated the grass, I think, more than the other surfaces. It's Jan-Michael Gambill. Jan-Mike, welcome back to the podcast.
Mitch, thanks. It's always good to be here.
Yeah, and I did, it was funny because I was thinking about that too. I know you mentioned before how much you love the grass, but how much tennis has changed. And I'm watching some of these tournaments, especially the finals that you called, covering all last week at Tennis Channel. But you see the grass now more so than ever. Like, it's the baseline that's browned out, not so much the net or the middle of the court anymore.
The baselines, with the exception of Queen's Club, which I think that those courts held up, they are some of the best grass courts in the world, kind of equal to the All England Club. The Wimbledon courts, Queen's does a great job, and that court held up the best versus Rosmalen and Stuttgart. Stuttgart was looking pretty rough in the front, especially it's like right in front of the baseline to those two big patches where if you can get a return that's deep in the court. It's going to have a terrible bounce. It's almost unplayable. So that sort of well sought after return that's deep, which is already a good shot on any surface, is so good when the courts get chewed up like that. So, that's part of it. They're so beautiful at the beginning of the week. And then at the end of the week, they're torn up on the baseline. People are moving like they never have before on it. And it can't handle it.
That's interesting, right? Like you say that through the end of a week, you're starting to notice that the court is, as a player, that it's chewed up at the back. So you might be, it's fair to say, returning and playing a little differently given what's happened to the court on the grass?
I mean, a grass court deep return is already a great shot. So you're looking to get some depth. It'll stay low anyway on the grass. If there's bad bounces, that's just a plus to your return. So it's just you got to play the court you're on and adapt a little bit. I'm not thinking people are adapting. They're just trying. I mean, it's just the idea of that's a good shot. As a server, you have to be ready for that if you can be, because some of those bounces they're impossible to do anything with.
I heard, one of the things that was interesting, how the game's changed. And eventually at the top players are just great regardless. But the story that Darren Cahill said that Jannik Sinner was working on sliding on grass for 45 minutes, like that's got to be the most foreign thing to you as a former player.
There are certain players that always could kind of slide on the grass a little bit. I think Leighton could actually do it a little bit out there. And there was a few different players that could actually pull it off. I'm seeing some players do it. It won't be surprising to me that Sinner or Alcaraz I know already can do it. I've seen Novak kind of slide around a little. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
Somebody will turn an ankle at Wimbledon this year or at one of these grass court events, and we'll all be really sorry for them. But you have to be very sure-footed on the grass. I always felt like, but I couldn't slide on the clay. So what am I? What do I know? I'm not the one to ask at all. If they're talking about good footwork on hard courts, I can help you there. And that kind of translates nicely to the grass, although you just have to it's a little different. But sliding like you slide on clay, some players will pull it off, and then there's going to be somebody who gets hurt by trying it. So you take your chances.
It's the unfortunate part of this, but we'll see. I mean, it's the evolution of tennis as well. Players are just evolving in how they approach tennis and what they do. I want to ask you, though, because you were covering the matches last week. We had 4 tournaments, and each of them had their own unique story. So was there one that stood out above the rest, or what's the first tournament that comes to mind when you talk about last week on the grass?
Well, there's a couple of just fantastic stories. First of all, just because it's American tennis, I'm always pro-American tennis. I thought Taylor Fritz played fantastically. If Taylor Fritz plays like that, I think he has a very good chance at going deep in the draw at Wimbledon. If the stars align, I think he could go all the way. Actually, I think if he plays like he did in that final, I reached out to Michael Russell and told him, that's as flawless of a match. I know he'd beaten Zverev a bunch of times before in a row before that. I think 4 times in a row. It's the 5th time in a row now. It's kind of amazing that he's doing that. Sasha Zverev. But the way he played there was exceptional. He was better on everything. He went backhand to backhand with Zverev. It was incredible how well he hit his backhand on the day.
Is that matchup, because it's 5 straight, and it's funny, it's 8 and 5 as a head-to-head, so it's not like he's always dominated Zverev, but he's got the hammer now. Now, on your expertise level, what is it about that matchup across surfaces now we're seeing it where Fritz has the hammer? Is it as simple as maybe, the forehand has just been a difference maker? Zverev on grass isn't really comfortable. I think it's safe to say coming to the net. That's never been his forte. What do you think gives Fritz the hammer in this specific matchup?
There's a couple things. I think well, you see multiple surfaces. On the grass, Taylor goes for more aces. Now, they both have great serves, and they both served above 70% in that match. So they both have great serves, but Taylor goes for the aces, hits more aces, so he gets a few more free points on that Zverev return. That return is so good, right? But Taylor hits the spots so well, it kind of nullifies all of that. The forehand, it's just better. He believes in his forehand more than Sasha does. That's always been the thing for Zverev is the forehand needs to continue to get better, be more offensive, all the way back to he made that final of the Open and played oh so well there. All of a sudden, he was a little more offensive with it, wasn't he? Taylor just naturally hits it bigger. The one thing that I've seen majorly improve for Fritz is that he's now a little bit more offensive on the backhand as well. Whereas before, he'd play a lot of neutral backhands. He'd move it around the court. He'd slide a couple winners up the line. But now he gets in there and hits it. And so he's staying with these guys who have these great, either a good lefty forehand or a good two-hander like a Zverev does. So he's staying in those rallies and actually hurting him. He had a couple backhands up the line that you kind of would expect from Sasha in a matchup like that were outright winners, and they were big points. He just did that well. And as far as their volleys are concerned, they're about equal. Neither one of them are an exceptional volleyer, but Fritz willing to come forward, do some good things at the net. That matters, at least on the grass, if we're talking about grass. But you're right, he's beating on multiple surfaces. And I do think it's the forehand, his willingness to go for a little bit bigger serves, get a few more free points. And I think that the Fritz return to serve is underrated. I think he puts a lot of balls back in play. The guy is good. I mean, there's no more holes in his game right now.
It's exceptional. Though tennis, I will say, as we're recording this, that's maybe a Wimbledon look ahead, but down in a third set against Mute right now as we record this. So I don't know if it's championship fatigue or where he goes. Mute's tricky. The reason I do bring that up too is because he's got an opportunity. He's the number 4 player in the world right now. Draper's nipping on his heels, and seeding is huge for Wimbledon, especially you get that top 4 and you're guaranteeing not to see Sinner Alcaraz to the semis is a pretty big deal.
That is very helpful, but you could see Novak Djokovic somewhere in there. You have some really dangerous floaters. You have Ben Shelton floating around in there, and I think he's going to be fantastic on the grass. He already played great there in Stuttgart as well, and made it into the top 10. So that's pretty awesome stuff for another American in the top 10. But there are some floaters that you don't want to see. Both Draper and Taylor Fritz would love to have that number 4 seeding for sure.
Yeah. What also did you think about the press or the championship speech after? Zverev basically saying, "I don't ever want to see you again, Taylor." Like, get out of Germany. In jest, of course.
I laughed at it. Yeah. Obviously some colorful wording in there, which that was funny. That's how tennis players talk when they are allowed to talk. It was hilarious, and it was good. It's true. I was like me and Andre. I was like, I don't want to see Andre. There is this damn book behind me.
I know.
Behind you. I was like, I don't want to see him in my draw. The guy's always there when I play well. Well, maybe Fritz has that kind of advantage over Zverev, and now it's a little bit in his head. If he's saying that in his speech, he's aware of it. So, so that's one of my favorite stories. But my actual favorite story is Tatjana Maria. I mean, that was just. I mean, Tatjana Maria is
winning Queen's Cup. So think about it like this, right? Queen's Club women's event hadn't happened in decades. So we got women's tennis back, Andy Murray Arena, newly christened. So we got new vibes coming into, as you said, maybe the best grass courts in the world. And it's got a loaded field. It's got all these players, these power players. And it's won by Tatjana Maria, 37 years old, mother of 2. Playing I'll get to her playing style as well, but just doing what she did on the surface, right? As a 37-year-old, winning her biggest event, doing it by going through qualifying and looking at the level of competition she beat Jan-Mike, it doesn't get any better than that.
Oh, it took Jabeur to beat her at Wimbledon a couple of years ago when she made that magnificent run there. I mean, her game is just suited for the grass. And the wins she came up with were just incredible. I just kept thinking, can she keep those balls in play against these power hitters? And the thought process was not that. It was, can they keep the ball in play against her underspin crazy games she plays? I mean, how much fun is it to watch that? I couldn't get enough. It's like so much fun to see somebody who plays completely different. How dare her slice her forehand like that? I mean, it's just like
it's
unfathomable. Nobody plays like that.
I love the different style. Like we always love uniqueness in any sport. Playing
Right.
like maybe a throwback, using the slice, just repeatedly going to it. And you can speak to this more. It's not just that she slices, Jan-Mike. It's what she's doing. The ball was seemingly dying on these players. And for a player like Anisimova, who I still believe, and still won again today, bounced right back, lost graciously, which is nice to see for a change. No, but handling the loss well. But she just, for a player that hits the ball as hard as anyone, was struggling to find a way to generate power because of what Maria was doing. It was a masterclass in neutralizing a big power player.
It is so difficult to hit sort of. What you can do is hit heavy spin off of a slice, but it usually will have to land a little bit shorter in the court. It's hard to drive through a slice and get it deep in the court, which is the goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're a player like myself, actually, I hit the ball a little bit more like an Anisimova with a little bit of spin, pretty flat. When somebody is slicing the ball like that, it's so difficult to keep it close to the net. You have to give yourself a little more space over the net so you don't miss it in the net, because when you drive through it, it has a tendency to kind of die a little bit. And so you have to create more. So you're kind of digging. You're basically, a good slice is like, I'm going to make you shovel it out of the grass all day long, or the clay or whatever it might be. And so you're kind of shoveling up all day long. So you can't actually play your game against that. The only way to get sort of out of that is have a slice yourself. Probably most don't slice as well as Tatjana does, and she doesn't really care because it takes very little energy to do what she does. So it's just tough to go up against that. And then you go one step further and you talk about these people. There's been a bunch of players in the past who have great slice backhands, but a slice forehand as well. Like Niculescu used to play that way. She would drive what she was driving on one side and slicing the other side, I think is what was going on with that. Now you have Maria slicing off both sides. It made me think of, like, as far as men are concerned, Fabrice Santoro used to play that way. But he would drive his backhand and slice everything over here, which was a nightmare in the first place because he did it so well. Now Maria off both sides can catch the outside of the ball to slice it and have it spin one way, or the inside, or just get behind it to keep it low. So there's a lot of things that she's doing that you're not really seeing. It's like, oh, she's just slicing her ball. No, she's actually carving it one way or another. And nobody had an answer for that.
No, not Madison Keys, not Rybakina, not Anisimova in the final. And watching the ball just like die middle of the court was just very, very impressive. And
if you have three players who play sort of similar games, the players you just named have big games, big ground strokes, big returns, serve well. Muchova, who she also beat, was the one that was the most surprising for me, because Muchova can actually deal with that. She's got a great slice herself, but she's been a little bit injured. She's not at her 100% form. Not saying that just because if she was at 100%, she would have beat Tatjana on the week, who just, stars aligned for her on that.
Yeah.
Is she a threat at Wimbledon? Well, I don't know if she keeps that same kind of play up. And it will depend on, maybe she plays a player who isn't bothered as much by that. The big hitters with the flat hitters are. Right. Like I said, I hated it. I hated seeing good slice. The Henman slice into my forehand was not fun to deal with.
The mental component too, right? To be able to handle, because if you play that style, right, you're going to get passed, you're going to get hit thrown at times. To keep your head down and stick to the game plan is just impressive. And it also kind of made me miss a little. I know they're not a direct comparison, but Ash Barty just mixing in a slice too. And
Ash Barty's so fun to watch.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I don't think people are talking about, maybe they are, I haven't heard some things, but is Tatjana actually served quite well in the week too. Lots of aces, was up there as the most aces in the tournament at one point. I know Gil Gross had brought that up and we were watching it in the final, and he was right. She really hit the spots well. She came up with the good serves when she needed them. And so, it was the perfect grass court game for the week, and she deserved it.
She certainly did. And again, we talk about trophy ceremonies. Anisimova saying, "I think the bigger bottle of champagne's for me because I need it more."
Funny.
Another great way to that's what we need more of. Just let tennis players speak freely.
Absolutely.
More with Jan-Michael Gambill here on the Inside In Tennis podcast. We're talking all things grass court tennis as we lead up into Wimbledon. Got some great action this week. There was another event, a combined event, which is also good to see, in s-Hertogenbosch, which saw some unlikely champions for different reasons. Gabriel Diallo wins his first tour title, and he does it on the grass. He beats some quality competition. Hatchinoff was in that run. He beats Bergs in the final. A lot to like about him. He could arguably be, in my opinion, Jan Mike, the breakout star that we've seen this year. One of them, what he's done on clay in Madrid and now in the grass. 6'8", tons of game, was covering the net like a cat. You couldn't get the ball by him at times. And he comes through and wins his first title. Very impressive performance by the Canadian to get that hardware.
Yeah, he's got a big game, and he's becoming more and more consistent from the baseline. He still makes a couple of errors from the baseline. I'm kind of like in my head, why'd you miss that? But there was a lot before in the past where there was a lot of why'd you miss that, and now he's actually controlling it a lot more. Stayed in some really tough rallies against Zizou Bergs, who's a good ground stroke, good all-round game Bergs has. And the other parts of it, though, the big serve, the ability at the net, the movement. Guy's 6'8", as you mentioned, and he actually moves like he's, you know, I don't know, 5'8". He moves quite well. Changes direction well, long, lean. He's put a lot of work into. You can see starting to develop his body a little bit, which he needed to do. You're obviously, if you grow like that, you're going to need to put some hard work in off court. And yeah, that matchup was one of those guys was going to. They both had made a final before that. One of those guys was going to win their first title. So there's something on the line there, and I love that kind of a story. One of the things that's a highlight of this is how much better those courts in Rosmalen have gotten. I played that tournament a couple of times and said, I will never go back. And in fact, Coco Vandeweghe, when I was coaching her, we were there one of the years, and she actually won that tournament, I think, a couple times down the road. We were there. It didn't go as well when we were there together. And I said, I don't know if you want to play that, Coco, because you can't even hit ground strokes on this court. And when we got there, she said the courts have been improved, and she was right. They were already improved. So seeing all those baseline tough rallies during the whole tournament, I was so impressed that they've put that work in, because it was so soft before, like soft. You couldn't even play a point, and that was a nightmare. Now it's a good grass court they have there.
It was having the combined event, Diallo. Yeah, that's a good point. Like both of these players going for their first title, you think there's going to be nerves and jitters. He was serving in that first set. I think he had double breakdown late, like could have been the end of the set, and then who knows the match. But he just played some smart, methodical points and found a way. So I think this could be a force on the grass on other surfaces in Diallo. On the women's side, though, I mean, Elise Mertens wins that tournament. But I want to go back to the semifinal, 11 match points saved. Like, what's the equivalent in other sports? I don't know if there is one, like 11 game-winning shots in basketball that you just miss every time. But it's why tennis is a unique sport. Alexandrova has got to be thinking, I could have won another edition of this tournament. But Mertens finds a way and then beats Ruse in the final, and she's holding the trophy.
Yeah, Elise is an interesting player. She does a really good job of staying in the moment. And we were talking about it with Gil, and I were kind of talking about her strategy when we were calling that match. And she does everything very well. The net, the ground strokes, the serve's good. Sometimes for me, she gets a little bit too passive. She plays it into these big spaces all the time, hardly ever beats herself. That kind of a game will beat a lot of players. Sometimes that kind of a game against the bigger hitters isn't enough.
It can plateau. It could get to a point.
It has a bit of a okay, this is where you'll kind of be. You're going to beat a lot of these players. Now, because she plays that way, she plays the big points so well. She doesn't make those errors. She doesn't care that it's match point, I don't think, when she's out there on the court. She actually is in that moment, and she's going to hit it into that spot. So if the opponent gets a little tight, you play a player against a counter Alexandrova, who goes for the lines like on every single ball. And often hits them. She's a very, very high-level player. When she's hitting the lines, she's winning matches. She can beat anybody in the world. When she gets a little tight, she might miss one of those balls, but Mertens isn't going to miss. So those 11 match points, we watched a bunch of them on some playback stuff on Tennis Channel, and she just played a little bit smarter. Yeah,
and it's one thing to win a match like that. Like she had to win the set and then win the third set and had to keep it going. Do you feel, 11 is drastic. It's probably happened only a handful of times in the pro history of the
11's
game.
11's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's an awesome story.
But walk me through, because I'm sure you've been there. You win a match where you save match points, or maybe you walk off the court being like, well, I don't know how I was not the better player today. Is that like a feeling of house money when you take the court the next day? Like, I shouldn't be here, but I've been given an extra life?
Yeah, it absolutely is. There was a tournament when I made the finals in Miami, huge result for me. Ended up losing to Andre. There he is again in the final there. But I had a couple of matches, in fact, 2 matches where I faced match points. One of them I was down 15-40 first round, 15-40 or love 40 against Andrew Ely, who's a good player. And somehow found a way to hold serve. I think I was serving. I think he had one more on his own serve. So that was the beginning of that tournament. And then I think I was playing Gaudio in the quarters that year, and he had a match point or two. Get through that one. I ended up having a good win against Leighton in the semis, and I felt great in that match because I had worked so hard, just battled to get there, and was able to sort of stay in the moment instead of worry about the score or what might or might not happen. It kind of forces you right into the moment, that's always the goal. And people say, "Oh, he's playing in the zone." Yeah, the zone is the best thing because you've forgotten about all this stuff and you're just tunnel visioning, and that's a lot of times you see players play the best. Sinner seems to do it from start to finish.
Yeah. You see the players in the zone and then they like forget that they've won the match. They forget the score and they're just so locked in. The flip side of that though, like Alexandrova, how do you respond from that? Like, do you just got to get back on the court the next day or maybe take time off? Like, how do you recover? I know it's not, the stakes aren't as maybe big, but it's still a match where you had your hands on and couldn't get the job done.
I think you have to shrug it off. I think what's Alexandrova going to learn from that? Don't go for the lines. It's not going to happen. But she is what she is. She's going to keep going for the lines. She's going to keep playing big, flat tennis. I think for her, keep putting yourself in those positions. It's still a semifinal. It's still a good result. It's a great start of the grass court season for her. I quite like her grass court game. It's still a great result. You have to look at it that way. Everybody except for one player loses every single week. It sucks to lose when you have that many chances to win, but I mean, you can't let it ruin your life, and you can't be like, you could go. I used to go sit on the bed in the hotel room, wherever I was, and just stare at the wall when I lost. I'm not sure how much that helped me.
Yeah. You got Sabalenka going to Mykonos, which, I mean, there's...
That sounds better.
It does sound better. But that said, though, it's like, would you rather... Like, it's going to hurt. Losing hurt, especially when you're close to winning. But would you rather get destroyed and then feel like your game's not good enough? Like, in a weird way, like, once the dust settles, it's like, no, I was good enough. I was almost there. Shrug it off and fight the next time versus, like, if you were outclassed completely.
I'd rather battle. I'd rather battle and lose it and have it suck and go break a racket. It was my nature or whatever, go deal with that and say, I was right in it. That if you get your ass kicked and you've just lost a match, you got beat 2-2, tuned up. That's like, oh, wow, I need to go back to the drawing board against this individual across the net or whatever went wrong on the day. When you lost some match points, it stings a lot. And, I've had matches where I lost that I had match points, and those suck, but at least, you played well and you had your opportunities. Yeah.
Well, you got Alcaraz and Sinner, and a great example of that. They're both back on the court already. Alcaraz from his Ibiza vacation, and Sinner, who lost the triple match point down, triple championship points, had them, couldn't convert. Tough loss, but again, right there with the best clay court player in the world. No shock that they're back again. How short the season is in different tournaments, but I always wondered, Jan, Mike, what do you think the very best players are trying to get out of this week? Because again, not everybody plays. No Novak this week. Nadal didn't play a lot this week either. But what do you think?
People pull out of that event. Berrettini pulled out. Tommy Paul pulled out. He's defending champ at Queens.
Dealing with something for sure. Like Paul was banged up. We saw it at Roland Garros. But
playing a lot of tennis.
Yeah. So what do you think Alcaraz Sinner are trying to get out of this week as they go for the bigger prize, obviously, in Wimbledon?
I think I'm tired of people always just talking about the slams.
Right.
It's tiresome to me. Obviously, everybody wants to win the Grand Slams, put those titles all together. Nobody used to do that. Queen's Club is a huge event with amazing history. So you want to go there and win Queen's Club. Yeah. That's this week. This week is go win a tournament. Go play well. First of all, for those two guys, get your footing on the grass. Get used to the grass a bit. Win some matches. Win the tournament. It's still a tennis tournament to be won. It still has an amazing history. It's still a wonderful event. So, that's what you go and do. And you worry about the slam when you get to the slam. And look, these guys know what they're doing as far as prep work to get to playing their best tennis at the slam, which is, yes, in the end, that's the goal. But I think you want to go win tennis tournaments. And there are some fantastic ones. Halle and Queens are huge events for the guys. So go perform.
I think that's a great point. I think Novak put it perfectly right. Like, you start with trying to get reps. You're trying to find your footing, whether it's clay or grass. Okay, we saw Alcaraz years ago, starting out on grass, almost lose early in Queen's Club and then win the title. But when you get deep into these tournaments, these are the most competitive guys. Like they want to win. So
They want to
yeah,
win.
I think it's safe to say maybe they won't be at their best early, but when are they at their best early in slams to begin with anyway? So
Well, it's the guys who are able to figure out ways to win when they're not at the best, even at the slams. You know, you'll have so one of those guys is going to have a match somewhere in there where somebody's close to beating them or gives them a tough day, and they find a way to win. You know, and I don't know. I love the fact that Novak won his 100th title in Geneva. I love that he supported Geneva. You know, go and play a 250. People are dogging on 250s. 250s are still great events. There's no reason that people need to dog on those tournaments. You know, they're awesome, and we need them.
I will say selfishly, as a spoiled tennis fan, you know, they both put their flags in the ground at different events, so it doesn't look like we'll ever really see the matchup pre-Wimbledon on grass. But again, you got to give shout out to Roger Federer really for elevating Halle a lot in that regard too. It's nice to have options. We talked about this too. Like if they were ever to do a Masters event in grass, you'd almost have to like alternate where it is, like Halle or Queens Club, or just figure out the schedule. But I would like to see a Masters on grass. I think that would be fun. A nice, elevation of the sport.
I'd like to know why you think they need to alternate it. That's
just
ridiculous.
Pick one. Just pick one.
Queens.
Oh,
it's Queens.
Okay. All right.
It's
all
Queens.
Right.
I don't think there's even a conversation. It's Queens.
Okay.
That club has the best courts. The courts are better than Halle.
For sure.
Like, far better.
Sure.
The question is, if it's a Masters 1000, does that also mean it's a WTA 1000? It looks like they're lining it up that way.
Yeah.
Does that mean also because there's less courts, as far as like if you're going to put those men and women together, have another event, you could do it. Now Queens is going to show that they can have 2 weeks of tennis. Is it a smaller draw? What is that going to look like? You can't put an Indian Wells type of draw on those.
We completely agree on that. The smaller draw is where it's at. Like I think that's what But I will say, there's no worry on your end about quality of grass. 2 weeks at Queens, it's the best grass. It's able to handle women 1 week and men's the next.
I'm totally worried about it. When I saw, I got my schedule and I said, "Oh wow, there's a women's event in London. Where are they?" And then I said, "Queens." I was like, "Oh wow, okay." They haven't done that. I think that's part of the reason they didn't do it in the past.
Yeah,
is those courts can only take so much. We're going to find out by Sunday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll see how they hold up. They held up the best of the courts that we saw in the beginning. This first week of grass court tennis. How will they hold up with another round of play? Wimbledon does it.
They do. They do
it.
They figured out a way. I'm intrigued. And Queens, Alcaraz pacing the field, but the other players there, I mentioned Draper, handled Brooksby today, playing for a lot. Mensik looked really good in his opening match. I think he's a player that could, on grass, we've always talked about with his serve.
Sure.
And then it's always the enigma of Holger Rune, like what is he going to bring you? But he's gone to quarterfinals at Wimbledon. He's had results on grass. Those are the names I was looking at. I know we'll see if Fritz survives. He's up against it now, but those are the names that maybe could push Alcaraz and maybe go for the title.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's always interesting. You always have somebody as well. I think it's more that during that first week of the grass, but even now the second weeks, a lot of these players haven't actually played on the grass courts. So you'll still have some surprise people kind of eke through there. There's a lot of pressure on Draper, and I love that he's performing under that pressure. Tough for him to perform in London. The press, they're on him. It's a whole thing, and he's been shining a lot lately, which means that they're almost. The British press is always kind of like they pump you up until you're there, and then they're ready to crush you if something goes wrong. So hopefully he shrugs all that off. I feel like he's done that so far. I'm a fan. I love watching him play. I love his game for the grass. He's one of my favorites for advancing deep into the Wimbledon draw. I'm not sure anybody can beat Alcaraz or Sinner, but I'd love to be proven wrong. I think it'd be fun to see a new champ come through.
Yeah. He seems like the guy. If it's not, you have the Novak factor floating around, but if it's somebody else coming up ready now, Draper would be the one that maybe could push those guys. Halle is the other one right now because I watched Sinner win, but yesterday the one that intrigued me, just given all he's been through and who he's working with now, but Tsitsipas, very, very, very fortunate to get through Darderi, very close, had the injury issues, but the bigger thing too is he's working with Goran Ivanisevic now. So do you think that partnership can be fruitful? I'll say Goran's a great coach, Jan-Mike, but this is a tougher task, maybe working with Tsitsipas on his least favorite surface.
Well, I think that partnership's a really good one. I think
Hmm.
Goran is a fantastic coach. He's a good
Yeah.
dude, and he certainly knows how to win on the grass. Tsitsipas's game is not like Goran's game, so that's
No.
not. It's not like he's going to coach him to play like Goran. But Stefanos can come forward.
Hmm.
Is the backhand good enough on the grass? It's proven in the past, and the answer has been no in the past. That doesn't mean it can't improve. That doesn't mean maybe the thought process can maybe improve with a different guru sitting in your box there. Um, for me, it's about his belief. It seems to have wavered a lot
Yeah.
lately. Stefanos is like talking more about all his crazy theories and his lovely things that he says and puts out on the to the world. And we hear a lot more of that rather than the game speaking for itself. He's had such a great career already. And there's so much pressure on him to be the next guy, be the next guy. And then these other guys
Yeah.
have come up and said, no, we're the next guys. And that's, I think, something that he deals with privately. He's got the game to go all the way. He's almost done it a couple times at the slams. And he's had such great results at all the other events. I think the grass and I think the backhand is the issue.
Hmm.
You know, that's the issue. Is to figure out the backhand. He's such a forehand dominant player that it's a little bit tough when they can finally get the ball over there or they hurt him into the forehand side. If he was a little more happy to hit backhands like a Federer or even
Yeah.
Sampras and Roger played similar, but they both had good backhands as well. They could pass you on that shot. They chipped it. They move it around the court. They both had better slices than Stefanos does. That's something that Goran could help him work on. If he can improve his slice on the grass,
Yeah.
that'll allow him more opportunities to hit big forehands and truly play the way he wants. But that's part of the process. And they both volleyed a little bit better than him, more naturally than he does. So that's a look that they've got to address.
It's a rebuild process. First tournament since 2018 that he hasn't been seeded. So he's slipped down the rankings outside the top 20 for the first time in a while. Yeah, I know, you're not liking some of the quotes like a meeting without food should be an email some stuff that he's posting online.
I mean, sometimes he's a bit of a weirdo. It's fine. He's a thinker. He wants to let people let him know he's a thinker. People hammer him and say maybe you should just play tennis. I say let him live his life, do what he
Yeah,
wants. But if he's trying to play better tennis, there's some things that need to be addressed as far as that goes. He
yeah,
can be whoever he wants off the court.
yeah.
Go have fun.
I'm rooting for him. I hope the health holds up because that's been a thing too. There's been sides of his health that unfortunately haven't held up. He was getting treatment in that matchup, so hopefully he can hold up there. And yeah, just the rankings on the men. It's interesting, right? Because we've seen some young faces emerge, but you just take a quick glance at the ATP rankings. Medvedev slipped. Casper Ruud's fallen a little bit. Rublev's down. So and you know there's no guarantee that these guys can get back up. It could be the highest they've reached already.
You know who slipped in there is three Americans.
They
So
did three in the top 10.
I'm loving that. You know, it's been talking about Ben Shelton being a top 10 player for quite a while. He did it in about 2 years. That's impressive. And I think he's going to hang around there for a while. So that's good to see. It's good to see Tommy Paul. He's put a lot of hard work in. It took him a little bit longer to climb, but he climbed right up in there and he's got a tough game to beat. And Fritz continues to play, I think, even better and better tennis. So that's a really good thing. Some of the guys, yeah, they've slipped. Hard to stay up in the top 10 that long. And it just makes you think about the players who've been able to do it in their careers and maintained that level for so long. The Novak
Yeah.
Djokovic is the world big three. It's
What was
not an
it?
easy thing to do.
Nadal was like top 10 for like 18 straight years.
Yeah. I
Something.
mean, the Rafas of the world, there's only just the one Rafa. So, you know,
It's
you can't.
yeah, and that's crazy because he missed time with injury. So you're thinking like he wasn't playing all the time. So he had to perform some of those years when he didn't play a
And
lot of tournaments.
he still won the French
But
14
that's
times.
yeah, that's just insane.
It's 1,000 points kind of like just
But
right there.
as you're listening to this too,
2,000 points.
for the people out there listening, Fritz breaks back. Like Mute serve for the match. Fritz breaks back. It's 5-all, and then we'll see. I know it's not the biggest event for him. I know Queens is huge. He wants to win it. He's coming off of the tournament, but that just shows you Taylor Fritz, right? He's a competitor. Like he's somebody that I think when the chips are down is going to fight every time.
He fights and he fights and he fights and he plays one point at a time. He does it great. I think that he doesn't let you know it as much on court. Sorry. You know, throwing rackets around or getting too negative. He stays kind of to himself and stays pretty focused. There'll be some fist pumps and those kinds of things. But I think that he's always just loved tennis. He just loves playing. It's one of the things that has been the issue. And you know, had the ab injury this most of this year, which has held him back a little bit. good news from the camp is that that it's 100% again, and he plays arguably too much tennis for a lot of coaches. I've talked to Paul Annacone about it. I've talked to Mikey Russell about it, and he just likes to play. He just wants to play every week, so it's like try to stop him from playing. But that translates so nicely to playing really high level tennis pretty much every time he walks out there. He doesn't have that many bad matches. There's been some in the past.
Yeah. Well, a couple more things with Jan-Michael Gambill here on the Inside in Tennis podcast. Want to wind down this show with some grass court thoughts on the ladies' side, and Berlin is just loaded. It's literally just about every top player at the top of the rankings playing in Berlin. Nottingham's a great event too. Interesting subplots there. I saw Samsonova beat Osaka in a great match, and it made me think, like, I just wish grass court season was longer again, because Naomi played well, and if she can get more matches in, who knows? But it's such a short season.
That seems to be the case with Naomi right now. I keep wanting to see. She's got my favorite serve on the ladies' side. I love watching her play. God, it's a good looking serve, and the way she hits the ball, it lends itself nicely to the grass. And but Samsonova that's not an easy player to play against. It's the Osaka ranking that's kind of, and she keeps getting these tough matchups. A year ago against Iga at the French, she had that opportunity there. Played unbelievable. One of my favorite matches of that fortnight of that event, and she is right there. But you keep losing matches like that, and maybe in the back of your head you have a little doubt. So that's one of the things for her. I do hope that she can have a couple of good events to get the ranking back up, and so that she's not playing Samsonova so early in a draw.
We also saw Marketa Vondrousova, Wimbledon champ, beat Maddie Keys, and I watched some of this match. Keys could have played better, but it was nice to see Vondrousova do what she does and do what took her to a Wimbledon title.
I mean, that's a tough matchup, isn't it? That's all those underspins, all those slices, the chip, the drop shots. She's kind of a nightmare to play against on the grass and the clay, really. So that's a tough one for Maddie. How's that a first round?
I know. Well, that's this tournament. I think it was 27. I think 27 was the cutoff, direct entry. I think it was somewhere around there.
That is brutal.
It is brutal. I saw Ashlyn Kruger got the lucky loser spot today. I was like, how is that, with how well she's played? But then going up against Rybakina. But yeah, are there any other players, though? Because I wanted to ask you, Jan, Mike, we've discussed this time and time again, right? Like the Wimbledon women's odds and who the favorites are. It's tough to forecast because you got Sabalenka at the top. Hasn't won here, though. Iga doesn't really suit well on the grass as well as others. We know about that. You're looking at it right now. It's Sabalenka. Rybakina is up near the top. Coco Gauff is there too. But outside of those three, and Andreeva, I think, and Iga are next up. Who are players that you could see making a run at Wimbledon on the women's side? We've had long shots hit in the past. Who are the other women that we should pay more attention to?
Tatjana Maria.
Yeah, there you go.
You give her the right shot, she could do some things. Mm-hmm. I do think actually Osaka has a good game for it. Mm-hmm. And if she can get the confidence right and have the right opponents in front of her to the first few rounds, she could really get the ball rolling on her and be really tough. I like Coco's chances on every surface right now. She's playing such confident tennis, but you said not Coco. I think that it's going to be tricky and interesting to see how the draw pans out for Iga Swiatek, which she's no longer the favorite kind of anymore at all, not even on the clay at this point. That might change down the road. Could she do something with all the pressure now being off of her completely? Yeah. That's interesting to me. I think that's a very interesting dynamic there. You have the Pagulas of the world who return extremely well. I mean, Jessica Pegula could have a great run because she returns so well. Now the serve, I think, holds her back a little on the grass. She's done some work on it. It's better than it was. She's tough. If you have a really good returner you're going up against, I think that makes it very tricky to hold. Grass, it's always about, this big serve, this, that, and the other. Yes, that's obviously very big, but it's the returners also, the people who put returns deep in the court, can return those big serves more often than not, that are really tough to go up against as well.
I also wanted...
What about Kvitova? I mean, Kvitova, she's back.
She is back.
These players that have won on this tournament that have done great on the grass, they know how to move, how to win matches on the grass.
It was Barbara Kuchikova a year ago. It was another one, too. I'm also curious, Emma Navarro. She's got a big match against Paul Badosa, who's looked better on the grass tomorrow, too. That's their matchup. But Navarro beat Coco last year, knows how to fight, and is in tip-top shape. She's an excellent mover, so I think that gives her a chance
Yeah,
So,
I really like Emma. I've covered a bunch of her matches lately, and I like her more and more the more that I watch her play. Backhand's good. The forehand is such a good shot. Sometimes the
mhm,
wristiness though affects her in a negative way when she gets
yeah,
rushed on the grass. So it will depend on who her opponents are. I think she made quarters
mhm,
last year. A great result. She's obviously had great results at the slams already.
yeah,
She's a big match player.
mhm,
And I think that that's going to be part of what
mm,
makes her have a good run there.
yeah.
She's definitely got the game to do it.
Jasmine Paulini, last year's finalist. That's who took her out. So maybe no one's really talking about her. Well, the last thing too, Jan Mike, the U.S. Open mixed doubles initial entry list came out for the. We call it a spectacle. I think it's. I don't know what nomenclature to use because we don't even know what this is necessarily. But revamped format, mixed results on that. But the star power is there because these are the names we're seeing right now. It's going to be Navarro and Sinner, Chinwen Zhang and Draper, Paul Pagula. Fritz is with Rybakina. You got Osaka and Kyrgios, of course, and then the Badosa Tsitsipas duo, and Raducanu Alcaraz. So a lot to digest there. Thoughts on some of these star power mixed doubles teams at this year's U.S. Open?
Well, I put up a smile on my face this morning. I was reading on X, just Carlitos talking about how he was excited to play with Emma, and that's fun. That's
Yeah.
fun to talk about. That's cool. That's already a great thing to think about. I have mixed thoughts on what they're doing with that as well, but I'll be covering that first week, the fan week, which has become such a great week for the U.S. Open,
Hmm.
media wise for the USTA, and I think that they continue to do great things with that whole week of tennis. Now they have this fantastic, what looks to me like it's a glorified exhibition, is what that is. It's like the Laver Cup and the ATP counting those matches at the Laver Cup, saying that
Yeah.
they count
Uh-huh.
for a record. They don't count. It's an invitational. You can't count an
Yeah.
invitational on someone's record, in my
Right.
opinion. I think that's
Right.
bogus. It's ridiculous, in fact. So this would become an invitational. You can still give a trophy to them and say you've won the mixed doubles at the U.S. Open.
Hmm.
You can do that if you want. If it's not based on ranking, I think it takes a hit, in my opinion. Does that
Yeah.
mean it won't be a great event? No, it looks like it's an awesome event. I
Yeah.
want to watch those matches. They
Yeah.
look like a lot of fun. There's going to be personalities out there, players, the best known players in the world are out there. Novak's doing it as well. I mean, you got people playing mixed doubles that never play mixed doubles. So that's really cool.
It's growing the game. It's going to be
Yeah.
great for business. I think it's also highlighting that majors are essentially becoming 3 weeks now because qualifying is just blowing up at all these tournaments. It's great to
Well,
kind of see.
finally people are seeing how tough the qualifying is, and they're people by letting them in for free. It's such a brilliant
Yeah.
idea. Come in for free. They're still going to spend a ton of money on food and other things that
Yeah.
all the merch that's in there.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
great stuff, but expensive. So you get people in the gates. It's great. It's
Yeah.
bragging rights. Oh, we had over 1 million people last year at the U.S. Open. That's unbelievable. Come
Hmm.
through the gates. So it's all good. It's all good. As far as history goes, though, I do have a little bit of a problem with it being just invitational. So I have a major problem if they don't invite the defending champs to come back and play in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
I
two more
think
spots, right? There's 2 more spots. It's
I think so.
how
There's
big
a
is it?
couple. I think I don't. There's wild card spots.
I think there's 2 more spots
Yeah.
for them
Yeah.
to do the right thing and let
Yeah.
if you're going to do that, you should just have the finalists back in the draw somewhere. And then
Yeah.
actually, somebody on X said that makes it more interesting if you let the sort of mixed doubles specialists, which I'm not sure that even exists. Is that real? But there's double specialists.
Yeah.
There's double specialists, and
Right.
so you put some double specialists in there. Are they better? Well, I think that asking that question, are they better? Letting them in the draw
Yeah.
is more interesting, personally. Even if you extended the draw a little bit and had a middle part of it where they had to play in there,
Hmm.
and then you had 2 other wild cards float around, you could have a more interesting contest and still have it be short. Remember, they're going to play to 4.
Yeah.
These aren't full matches, which is another reason that in my brain says it seems a little bit like an exhibition, but a good one.
A good one.
There's that's not an attack on what they've decided to do.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see how it turns out. Really.
And they got us talking about it, so mission accomplished.
Yeah.
It's
an awesome thing to talk about. You have you have the best players in the world all playing mixed doubles.
Yeah, we're gonna watch.
It's kind of like the Hopman Cup used to be.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There was a lot of fun playing the Hopman Cup.
Yeah, I think that's where the Federer marriage started, just playing together at the Hopman Cup. So
Exactly.
no, it's great. I think sometimes change can be difficult to understand and can be tough to get used to. But I think this is a good try, and it might not be perfect on first go. It might be a home run right away, but I think it's good. And I think, as you said, capitalizing on that fan week, how special it is, how great it is to have that buzz, and giving them actually a great product here is good. So I'm excited.
I almost feel like they could have, honestly, Mitch, I almost feel like they could have two mixed doubles draws and just call this something like the exhibition, and have like all the best players in the world playing mixed doubles for huge money. Yeah. And everybody wants to get into it because it is huge money in this event. And then just have your normal mixed doubles draw.
And then have a title match between those two.
Oh God, that's brilliant.
A big money.
If you could get the people to stay.
Yeah, that's the thing. A big money title match.
I love that.
Jan-Mike, this was a blast. Always is talking tennis with you. We get to dive into the grass court season, which I know we appreciate more than anything. So thanks for joining the show. All the best going forward with broadcasting, with teaching the game to others, and we'll have to have you back on soon. Thanks for coming on the show.
Can't wait for it. Thanks, Mitch.
That was Jan-Michael Gambill. This was the Inside In Tennis podcast, all on the Believe Network, all on all your podcast platforms. So just search Inside In Tennis podcast. Subscribe to the show. Leave a nice rating or review if you could be so kind. And make sure you hit that automatically download button on the subscribe. So that way you get every episode on your device. It's that simple. And subscribe to the YouTube channel at Mitch Michals as well for the full video episodes, as well as some YouTube shorts as well. So for Jan-Michael Gambill, I'm Mitch Michals. This was the Inside In Tennis podcast. We'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Enjoy the grass court tennis.